it's Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Saturday, February 18th. So, of course, we had the moon in Capricorn the last couple of days. The moon went void last evening, and we are shifting into Aquarian energy about a half hour into the day here today. So this is an interesting dynamic because, of course, we just are wrapping up the final hours, if you will, of Aquarius season before the sun shifts into Pisces. We had this grounded energy in the moon in Capricorn the last couple of days, really showing us where it is that we have to kind of get our shit in gear, get control over the situation, clean up the elements of the past so that we can go ahead and start building those elements towards bringing forth new topics and themes and foundations in our future. So we've definitely been a little bit lower and slower. We are also feeling the rapid progression in our mental plane and events around us. And as the moon moves into Aquarius energy, again, the sun is preparing to move into Pisces energy. We are also entering into the new moon window towards the end of the day here today. And we are definitely going to be sitting in a very weird, awkward funk as we kind of adjust to this Pisces energy, as we adjust to the dark phase of the moon, and we really just kind of sit with a state of not knowing where it is that we're going and essentially where it is that we're even coming from. There's a lot of disillusionment, a lot of confusion going on. There are events taking place in the outside world triggering a lot of inner realm discernment, a little bit of an alert system going off. We'll talk about that in the Ascension forecast rant for the week. But overall, we're going to be in the thick of some really weird vibrations here today. So we're just going to have to just stay as present as possible and just kind of breathe our way through it. So there are 11 different aspects here today, and 8 of them involve the moon. So the moon does lock into this Aquarian energy, like I mentioned, about a half hour in Eastern Standard Time. And then only a couple minutes after we get into this Aquarian energy, we are going to have an interaction with Mars. And Mars, of course, is in Gemini energy, so we get some air-on-air action here. But it's not the best interaction, and this is likely going to add to the confusion, to the frustration, to the agitation, to the disbelief of some particular topics and themes, some information and details that are definitely coming at us from the external realm and really kind of pushing us in a, I'm going to say, rebellious phase, if you will, of us really wanting to fight back. The moon bumps into Chiron, the wounded healer, in a very positive way, and this is definitely showing us, although sitting in our little bit of a rebellion streak and attitude, where it is that there are issues that we have to heal. And when we're talking about Chiron, there is this, I'm going to say, focus on who it is that we are, who it is that we've been, who it is that we're becoming because of the inner work that we're doing. Now, we have the observer type of mentality with the moon in Aquarius. We're also gifted with the ability to emotionally detach, to see ourselves from the bigger, broader picture. And when we do that, not only are we gauging where it is that we still have this want, need, and desire to constantly push the boundaries of our healing journey, of our progression, of our growth, but where it is that we are actually accomplishing really healing some of these wounds. And we know that based off of A, the way that we're thinking, B, the way that we feel, but also C, the way that we are quote unquote reacting to the external realm around us. And of course, the key is to not react. We want to take a time out, see it from the bigger, broader perspective, and of course, respond from a real and raw, authentic place where our mind, our body, and our soul had time to sort out those inner details and actually get in an alignment of agreement. Mars goes ahead, bumps into Uranus in not the nicest way. And let me just say to you, this is going to be a jolt of electricity that will probably put our central nervous systems in a little bit of a tizzy. We have Mars, who is the ruler of our physical energy, our drive, our passion, our desires, even our anger, who is still in this Gemini energy. We can't wait to get out of this Gemini energy at the end of March. And we're really kind of revved up in our mental planes. We have a lot of rapid firing ideas and thoughts coming into that mental plane that we are feeling the impulsivity to want to take action upon. And of course, Uranus energy is the highest form of intelligence. It carries a lot of electricity in our air, in our bodies. And this particular interaction, we are definitely going to feel this jolt of restlessness, this agitation, this anger, this frustration. And we're not thinking very clearly. We aren't kind of seeing the big picture. We're a little bit closed up. We're a little bit angry. We're a little bit rebellious. We're having a hard time seeing the bigger, broader picture here. And we're also having a hard time holding ourselves back from kind of, I'm going to say, lash out and project our inner frustrations and agitations on the world around us. Now, the moon goes ahead, squares, gets into the boxing ring with the true note. The true note is our soul path, our destiny point. It's the path that we need to be on to reach our mission, our purpose, our meaning, our potential. And the square doesn't feel good. A square is where we create tension and conflict to see what it is that we need to focus on, what it is that needs to change first. And basically, we know that by what is demanding our attention through our anger, through our frustration, through our not so nice thoughts and feels. Now, this is also an interesting dynamic because the moon in Aquarius energy is a fixed sign. The true note is in Taurus energy, a fixed sign. And fixed signs do not like to change. They like to stabilize. They like to find common ground. However, there is a resistance to change. And right now, with basically this Aquarian energy coming to an end, we are so focused on our futuristic vision, but we have no clue what that means for us in the here and now. We have no clue the steps that we need to take. We have no clue the strategy that we need to make. We just know that our current circumstances are very uncomfortable and we want to do something about it. We want to change, but we may not know how to actually dig ourselves out of this funk that we're currently sitting in, that we're currently feeling. Now, Venus is going to bump into Saturn in not the nicest way. Venus is wrapping up her particular journey in Pisces energy. If you've been listening to me, even for the last week, you would know that Venus is about to get rocked as far as having a little bit of a reality check goes, because she's been living in la la land. She's been wearing those rose-colored glasses, thinking that everything was fine and peachy keen. Here we are. We're at the final degrees of Pisces energy as she prepares to start fresh with a clean slate with new soul contracts when she moves into Aries energy just minutes after the new moon here on the 20th. And right now, she is kind of nearing the end of her journey in Pisces energy, and she is essentially getting bitch slapped. The rose-colored glasses are falling off. Now she is coming off the high. She's coming off the party weekend. She's coming off all of these romanticized thoughts and feelings, and she's kind of getting, I'm going to say, dropped pretty heavily on her butt in order to ground her out and anchor her into what is truth, what is reality, what we actually have control over, where it is we got to get real and raw and vulnerable with what it is that we don't like in order to weed out what needs to stay, what needs to go. Because again, she is about to jump into a brand new cycle when she moves into Aries energy. So jumping into this particular uncomfortable aspect with Saturn, the Lord of Karma himself, this is a real good indicator that, guess what, we're coming down off of this high. We're also moving in to Pisces season, which is going to be highly emotional. We are also moving into the dark phase of the moon. That means that we're sitting in the funk of our thoughts, of our feelings, of our experiences in order to figure out what it is that we're done with, what it is that we've outgrown, what it is that we can't take any more of, so that we can cut the cord with those particular elements and start kind of focusing on the new intentions, the new seeds that we want to plant under the new moon in Pisces. And of course, try to get us out of the current situation that is very uncomfortable, that ain't feeling so good. So what do we get here with Venus kind of interacting with Saturn? We get a whole lot of weight. We get a whole lot of heaviness on our heart space. We cannot run, we cannot hide, we cannot delude ourselves, we cannot fib, we cannot lie, we can't put the rose-colored glasses on. We have to deal with life as it is, not for the way that we wished it would be. And this has a huge focus on our happiness, our pleasure, our joy, figuring out who and what are contributing to building those particular aspects up instead of tearing them down in our life. B, our relationship dynamics. Many of us just walking around trying to sweep certain details of our current relationship dynamics under the rug, hoping that it's just going to fix themselves. And we're really kind of flipping the rugs over at this time and bringing all of that dirt out in order for us to see the pile of dirt that we've been trying to ignore. And C, we're looking at our finances with a very not so nice narrative in our mind space. And of course, with the economy the way that it is and the scare tactics being thrown at us and inflation and food shortages and crises, you know, we do have a little bit of a indicator that we should be figuring out our financial situation. Even more than that, our resources. How do we become more independent and not so self-reliant or not so reliant on the big box stores? We have to become more self-reliant. How can we grow our own food? How can we take care of our own family? How can we, heal wounds? How can we have our own supply, if you will, of medications when we can't trust that the pharmaceutical companies are going to provide what it is that we need? We are moving into a time where, again, I'm going to go on a rant about this in another forecast, but Saturn, I don't think people understand the pivotal point in life that we're currently in because of Mr. Saturn. And we're about to get rocked in a lot of different ways, but right now Venus is taking a hit. She's having to kind of get this bitch slap of reality to wake her ass up. She's running out of time to figure out what doors need to be closed and which ones need to be nailed shut in order for her to be cleansed and purified in her raw and real vulnerable state, for her to enter into a new emotional chapter when she enters into Aries energy. So we got that kind of hanging over our heads. The moon goes ahead, semi-squares Neptune. Neptune, of course, in Pisces energy, in its place of power. What is this going to do? Well, it's going to confuse the hell out of us. We're not thinking clearly. We're not feeling clearly. Our intuition is off. Our instincts are off. Why? Because our mental plane, our ego self, is influencing that inner peace state, and therefore we're kind of blurring the lines. We're not sure what to think. We're not sure what to feel. We're not sure what is real. We're not sure what is fake. And therefore, many of us really overwhelmed with current situations as of right now. And because we're moving into Pisces season even more, having more and more planets built up in this Pisces energy, approaching the new moon in Pisces, you best believe that things are going to get foggy as hell, confusing as hell, overwhelming as hell. The Pisces energy is meant to break us down to be real and raw and vulnerable enough to stand in our pure state, so that we can start a brand new chapter for ourselves when we get renewed, rebirthed under the Aries energy. So there is a whole amount of confusion. We are not seeing things clearly. We are not in alignment with our intuition. We are kind of being, I'm going to say, blocked out from being able to think and feel the kind of energies that we usually rely upon for guidance. Now, the moon goes ahead and sextiles Jupiter. This is a little bit of a pick-me-up. But let me just say that everything is going to be overinflated, over-exaggerated at this particular point in time because of Jupiter. Jupiter is about growth and expansion, beliefs, abundance, blessings. He is the spiritual wisdom that we've accumulated that we're supposed to be integrating and applying to our current circumstances. He is in Aries energy. He cannot wait in order for us to be done with looking back, done with the past, because of course, Jupiter jumped into Aries energy, locked in for the second time around, ripped that rearview mirror off of the car. We don't want to look back. We just want to move forward, but we haven't actually been able to I'm going to say capitalize or use this energy to our advantage because of all the other planet aspects. Of course, we are now in a time where there are no planets in retrograde, which is great. That's a forward movement. But we're also at the point in the calendar where we're not really starting fresh. We're not building new things. We're not initiating new things. That will come in Aries energy. We're wrapping things up right now. So there is this disadvantage that we have right now because we're not able to tap into the energy of Jupiter being in Aries as much as we need and as much as we would like. Nonetheless, We are going to gain a little bit of confidence here. This is like our cheerleader coming to pluck us out of this negative funk and really hype us up and remind us of the boldness and the bravery and the courage that not only we have to have in order to continue to charge and push forward, but the boldness, the bravery, the courage that we've had to have in order to get here. Many of us dealing with some pretty heavy situations. We didn't know we were this strong. You never figure out how strong you are until you have no choice. But the moon and Jupiter right now coming together is trying to remind us of the greater, grander vision, the greater, grander dream, the goal, if you will, because we lost sight of that. We got a little bit frazzled. So this is going to be a little bit of a pick-me-up. This is going to hype us up. The volume is all the way turned up. We are magnifying the good. We are trying to pluck out the silver linings. We are doing all that we can to try and stay on the positive side of the vibrations and frequencies here today. Now, 5:35 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when the sun moves into Pisces energy, initiating Pisces season. If you have not listened to the astro forecast that I put out for this particular event, please go ahead, take a listen. Kind of gives you the lay of the land on what it is that we can expect to experience over the next couple of weeks. But the sun in Pisces season, yes, you'll hear people talk about the pros as if they were the only things to concentrate on, such as intuition and spirituality and dreams and imagination and creativity and artistry and all of this beautiful, lovey, romantic versions of the Pisces energy that very rarely gets expressed. And you don't hear so much talk about the shadow realm of Pisces energy that we are meant to tap into in order to actually do the work. Pisces energy, being the last sign of the zodiac, is the shadow realm of our unconscious self. Even more than that, it represents the unconscious collective. We have to go into ourselves and recognize where it is that we've been avoidant, where it is that we just want to run away, where it is that we are playing the victim, where it is that we feel unsafe, insecure, where it is that we are having a hard time letting go of past elements, where it is that we are essentially drowning under our emotions. This is the shadow realm of Pisces energy that we have to go through, and it's going to feel like we're getting tossed around in the middle of the ocean with, waves that are higher than you could ever imagine, because Pisces season is about beating us down and making us real and raw and vulnerable and kind of getting us to a sober and somber realization on what it is that we have to let go of, what it is we have to surrender to, so that when we get washed upon the shore at the end of Pisces energy and we are essentially reborn again, that spark, that fire, that flame gets reignited under the Aries energy when we jump into the new astrological calendar with the spring equinox. So there is a very challenging time ahead of us. And I know many people have said, February has been a very tough month. Well, it's actually the calm before the storm, people. March is going to be a hell of a doozy. And if you have not listened to the 2023 energy forecast as of yet for these particular months, you should probably do that and get informed, because we are definitely in for a banger of a month when we jump into March. So anywho, the sun goes ahead, moves into this Pisces energy. 1 minute later, the moon conjunct sits next to Mercury, who is in Aquarius energy. Emotionally speaking, in Aquarius energy, we're emotionally detached. That's the moon. That's our unconscious self. We're also tapping into the, I call it the rebellious attitude and streak of this Aquarian energy. And because we are kind of sitting in this transitional period with some of these planets moving all around, this Mercury energy, the lower level intellect that rules over information, communication, and expression, in Aquarian energy, which is the highest level of our intellect, where brilliance and epiphanies and aha moments are concerned, we are moving into a time where we're trying to get our heart and our head on the same page. You would think that it'd be a lot easier to do so with both the moon, our heart space, Mercury, our head space, both in the same sign. But right now, I'm going to say the way that I'm seeing things is that we're tapping into the shadow element of the moon being in Aquarius energy, which is emotionally detached, semi-dissociative. We are hesitant to think too far into the future like this Aquarian energy would want us to, because right now there's a lot of topics and themes coming up reminding us that we have some closures and completion points to make in our past, while the Mercury in Aquarian energy is tapping into, I would say, the better part of this Aquarian energy, where brilliance and progression and innovation and resolution are concerned. So you would think that our heart and our head would be on the same page in this Aquarian energy. There might be a few overlaps, but as far as I'm concerned, emotionally speaking, we are detached. We are a little bit cold and rigid in our emotional state. We are a little bit flustered because there is this rebellious nature coming out where we do want to fight back, where we do want to regain power in our lives, especially over our emotions, especially over the lack of stability that we're currently feeling in our lives, and power and control that we're feeling a lack of in our lives. And then you have Mercury over here pushing the boundaries of our mental plane, trying to come up with solutions in order to get us out of this emotional funk that we found ourselves in because of the shadow elements coming very alive and well in this Aquarian energy. So we sit in that for like 3-4 hours, and then the moon is going to go ahead and sextile Chiron. This is a super good sign because Chiron is the wounded healer. A sextile is a positive aspect, which means that we're tapping into the positive qualities of both the moon and Chiron. And this says a lot about how sometimes we really need to detach and disassociate from our environment, from our emotions, from our thoughts, in order to gain a bigger, broader perspective on what the real problem is. Sometimes the problems that we see in life are merely just the last straw that broke the camel's back, masking the actual root problem in our lives. And so with the moon kind of sextiling Chiron in this way, first of all, it's very indicative that we are coming up with solutions, that we are realizing what the real actual root problem is, so that we're not just masking a temporary problem and avoiding the actual primary root problem. And we're kind of digging ourselves out of this funk, and we're putting ourselves in a situation where we're hyping ourselves up to be optimistic again, where we're being positive about the possibilities of the future, where we are projecting ourselves so far into the future, into this, I'm going to say, reality that we're looking to manifest, that it makes the current circumstances a little bit more tolerable. The last aspect that we have here today is the moon semi-squaring with Venus. And as you know, Venus is at the very final degrees here of Pisces energy. She's a little bit more down to earth than anything else. She's definitely tapping into the shadow realm of this Pisces energy. And emotionally speaking, this is a little bit of a cluster F because, of course, the moon in Aquarius provides us with this emotional detachment in order to intellectualize what it is that's going on in our inner realm and seeing the circumstances and situations of our life from the bigger, broader perspective, the eagle eye, if you will, so that we aren't getting caught up in our emotions and we're not basing our projections on what it is that we're feeling. We're actually just taking a good look at the situation, the scenario, the facts, before we get too emotionally caught up and involved. But Venus over here in Pisces energy, she's so overwhelmed waking up from her little, dreamy little dreamscape that she's so overwhelmed, she just wants to numb. She just wants to avoid the whole situation. She does not want to deal with reality. She wants to curl up in a ball and just stay in bed until these problems solve themselves, which of course they're not. She's in her dying phase. She's at the final degrees of Pisces. She's in her dying phase. She's in her surrendering phase, letting go phase, getting very real and raw with the delusions that she created because she didn't want to face the facts of her true reality. And so this is a little bit of an interesting dynamic because we are trying to talk ourselves off of a ledge that, emotionally speaking, we can't see any way off of. And this is very indicative of some of the topics and themes that are going to come up for us as we get deeper and deeper into this dark phase of the moon, and we sit in the new moon in Pisces with no illumination in the sky, and we have no choice but to sit in the depths of a darkness of our emotions, of our thoughts, of our physical experience, and really feel how uncomfortable it is, because as humans, we have to be uncomfortable. We have to be at the end of our rope. Our backs need to be against a wall in order for us to boss up and make the changes that we should have made when we didn't feel so threatened, so cornered, like we didn't have very much of a choice. So as you can see, there are a lot more lows here today than there are highs, but with being able to map out the highs and lows and everything in between, at least you'll have a heads up. You'll be able to recognize when certain energies are starting to manifest in the run of your day. And hopefully with the power of your mind, you're able to at least tap into the highest potential possible of some of these negative aspects. But warning, spoiler alert, the next couple of days are going to feel highly emotional, highly intense, to the point where you're just going to want to escape it all. And let me just say that Pisces season, Pisces energy in particular, is where we want to numb, where we turn to things like drugs and alcohol and prescription drugs and other vices just to kind of take us out of reality, to consume us and distract us from what it is that's actually going on. But as we all have learned by now, you can't just sweep things under the rug and expect there to not be a pile of dirt when you lift that rug up. So let's do the best that we can to lean in to these uncomfortable thoughts and feelings, examine them, rip them apart so that we can get down to the nitty-gritty on what is actually causing them, because we have to identify the problem before we can come up with a solution.